to do the car clinic.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Konrad? Are you
sure.
Up to it?
If you let me, I'll go.
Well,
there.
yeah.
You take your time. I get it loaded.
Because
you had asked a couple of weeks ago to do it on crankshafts.
Correct.
And I started with piston rings, and then we did pistons last week or 2 weeks ago, and connecting rods last week. So now we're to the crankshaft.
The crankshaft, and because Konrad can get really technical on some of this stuff, let me just start off by saying there are crankshafts, and then there's this new thing. It's not new, but new to me, called a flat plane crank.
And that's what I'm going to show you. The difference between a cross plane and a flat plane crankshaft is the two crankshaft designs that are out there. For the most part, cross plane crankshafts dominate, especially in the American V8 engines, while a flat plane typically show up in high-end European exotics and full race cars. The cross plane crankshaft has a rod journal every 90 degrees. And that's what attributes that distinctive rumble that you hear in an American muscle car.
Now, wait just a minute. Run that by me one more time. It has a journal every 90 degrees of what?
Of the pictures will show up, and in the pictures it'll show you a look of what the crankshaft looks like from an end view.
Right.
So every 90 degrees is a rod journal.
Yes.
In a flat plane crankshaft, it's each rod journal is 180 degrees out. So
they oppose each other.
They oppose each other, but they sequence the firing order in a way that it's continuously pushing the crankshaft around.
So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8?
No, like yes, to a degree, but the difference is, you hear, and we heard this 64 Chevy pull in behind us, that rumble you hear in the big engines. When you hear a flat plane crankshaft, it has more of a sewing machine song to it.
Yes.
Because everything's pushing in sequence, and you don't get this what I call the oddness of the exhaust pushing against each other, which is what creates the rumble. And that's just in the design of how the airflow comes in and out of the engine and how the firing order works.
Well, doesn't a flat plane crank, can it not rev higher than?
It revs a lot higher because it's lighter. When you have the cross plane crank, that 90-degree crankshaft, you have to put a lot of counterbalances in it, so there's a lot of weight in the crankshaft.
Right, you're spinning around in there.
It manages the vibration that it can create.
Yep.
In a flat plane, it's got a lot of what's called primary, or very controlled primary vibration, but it's got a little bit higher secondary vibration. So as the RPMs come up, there can be some vibration in a flat plane crankshaft that you don't see in a typical cross plane crankshaft. But it gets to speed much faster because it's probably about 60% lighter than a cross plane crankshaft, just because they don't have to build so much.
60% lighter?
Just because they don't have to build so much counterbalance journals in it.
And they're forged.
Oh, yeah. But that's where that noise comes from, is because it's endlessly, each firing of the cylinder is just endlessly pushing the crankshaft around, where in a cross-plane crankshaft, you've got one side of the engine pushing, then the other side of the engine pushing, and it's something Keith Black was very famous for in his design or redesign of the Hemi. Was he actually changed the firing order of a Hemi to make more power in the 2 and 7 firing order. He moved those around, and that's why the Keith Black Hemis are that much more powerful.
Can I take an old Chevy V8, let's say a 327, with an old standard crankshaft, and put a flat plane crank in it?
No, because the cradle where the crankshaft goes isn't designed for it. So the flat plane crankshaft is it's more than just the crankshaft. It's pretty much the whole engine.
Yeah.
But, that's what gives that distinctive noise. When you hear that 12-cylinder Ferrari go by at speed, that noise that sewing machine sound is the flat plane crankshaft that's in it. And that's really where the big difference is. But, you see flat plane crankshafts typically are in high-end Europeans, the V12s, the Ferrari V8s and stuff. But now you're starting to see the domestics starting to use it. Ford put a flat plane crankshaft in the GT350 Mustang about 3 or 4 years ago. And that, if you hear one of those, you know what it is.
Well, you know who has
the
one.
Tone,
or had one. John Gray.
Yeah, because the tone of the engine is different.
Yes, very much.
And now
so.
the new Corvette race car, the C8R, has a flat plane in it, and the new Z06 has a flat plane
So
in it.
why are they just now introducing that or allowing us to buy that outside of racing?
I think it's because the buying community is more acceptable to that kind of technology. There isn't any durability and dependability issues with it, but technologically it's expensive to build that engine. So now people are willing to pay more. You got to look at a new Z06. Besides all the crazy dealer markup going on, it's north of $100,000.
Right.
Yeah.
So how much more money would it add to have a flat plane crank
Well, if
engine?
if you just look at the Corvette itself, it's about $25,000.
$25,000 extra for the motor.
For the regular V8 with the cross-plane crankshaft versus the Z06 with the flat plane. Now, there's a lot of other stuff added to it, but about $25,000 difference, and then the craziness of dealer markup and stuff. So, when you look at the pictures that are popping up, that end view of the crankshaft really shows you the difference of a cross-plane
I have no
crankshaft.
clue.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty cool,
Nope.
pretty cool. Real high technology, and the balance issue is an issue, but it's not a.
Do they still
it's
have
not
a harmonic
deterrent.
balancer on it?
Oh yeah.
Do they still have a flywheel on it?
Yep, still has a flywheel, and they still have some counterweights on them, but the counterweights are 60% the size of the counterweights that you have on a crossplane.
So
And that's where the weight savings is, and that weight savings in the crankshaft is what allows it to come up in RPMs faster.
of course,
Not
because
as much weight to
you don't
sling
have
around.
to move all
so
that
much
mass.
reciprocating weight.
Yeah.
And as well as all that mass help or lack of mass helps in the fuel performance of it as well.
Well, thank you very much. I always love these
Good
segments.
work.
That's pretty cool.
We'll have to come up with something really good next week.
Ford Motor.